everyone, and welcome. Welcome to a special Wednesday Live. It is me, your friendly neighborhood brother from another mother, coming to you today to address all things mental, emotional, and relationship health. So welcome. Do us a favor, whether you're watching this live or whether you're checking it out later, do me a favor and click that like button and subscribe. Or if you're brand new and you're like, I don't know, I got to check out this guy. I understand. I get it. But what you can do is go over to markdejesus.com and you can check out about all the materials, resources that are available. I've got a topics page. If you click on that topics button right there, it'll take you to a page that has indexed subject by subject of all the resources, blogs, videos, podcasting. And you can also take advantage of many of the numerous books that are available, including the latest ones being The OCD Healing Journey, which has brought many of you to this channel and to these materials. And the latest one I'm teaching on actually right now is The Myth of the Perfect One. This is a book on the journey of working through and navigating through relationship OCD. And I'm currently right now in our Healing and Freedom community. I'm teaching on. In fact, yesterday I just finished another session. It was a live session that I did that people were able to attend and send in their questions and so forth. And it was great. We'll probably do another one. And I'm going to continue teaching through the book material, expanding on it. That's something you can check out by going to markdejesus.com/community or click on the community button there. But regardless of all that, hope you had for those of you in the United States, hope you had a good Thanksgiving. If you didn't, it's all right. You can rebound and recover because for many people, it's a mixture, right? For many people, holidays are something to be excited about. For many people, holidays can bring up a lot of painful emotions. For many, it can feel very lonely. For others, it can feel very heavy laden because you're dealing with toxic people and difficult people. And all that goes along with that, the family battles and all those things rise to the surface. Meanwhile, we're hoping to have a nice break, nice time to be refreshed. And then many of you feel like you need a vacation from your holiday break. It's understandable. It's understandable because it's messy along the journey. So I pray that you'll find some grace. You can feel a sense of some comfort, but also some insight and encouragement to help you along the way in your journey. Going to get to numerous questions. We didn't have a Sunday live this past week, so I thought I would have a Wednesday live when I can. If we take a break on Sunday, many times I'll do one on Wednesday because the questions do pile up. I do try to address questions as best I can. And as I look through them, my policy about Q&As is I don't do a lot of prep work. I kind of read through, scan through, and go, okay, that sounds like something good to address, or I've already addressed that 1,000 times, and then I can come in. So it gives me a chance to just talk, share from my heart. There's not a script that I'm following other than a stack that's here. And of course, right by my side, the lovely, the amazing, the stupendous Melissa DeJesus is here with me. Hello, my love. Let me get your microphone up there. And she's monitoring the comments. She's here with me.
As always.
And how was your Thanksgiving, my love?
Well,
we had a lot going on, didn't we?
let me tell you what. The one and only thing that I was looking forward to, which was the turkey, the
Yes.
fixins. I love it so much.
Mm-hmm.
That does not disappoint.
Yes.
Not in any way, shape, or form. However, we had a very exhausting week. And first of all, I would say the fun parts were that, I don't know, for those of you that follow us, ever since we got married, Mark has given me a wonderful gift of a family video, which is basically everything he's captured throughout the year. And he does this amazing video at the end. Well, now it's become quite the production.
Yes.
We plan skits,
Mm-hmm.
dances,
Yep.
themes. It's really quite the production. We had my niece come over. She was amazing. We did dance routines into the wee hours of the night.
It was fun.
It was so fun. There was green screens involved. It was awesome.
Yep.
Anyways, that was fun, but we were also tired. And then Tuesday, all this was going on throughout the week, by the way. My sister calls me and says, dude, I got to take dad to the emergency room. I said, oh my goodness, here we go.
Yeah.
So my dad, he's like pacemaker, new knees, new hip, new back. I mean, the guy's got all the things going on. Okay. And he just has not been feeling himself. So he was not doing good. So we took him to the ER. And that was a whole drama. That was a lot.
It was a lot. Drama's a kind word.
That was a lot. I will say one of the parts that was tough is he's at the hospital all day and they say, okay, we're going to keep him. So where we had taken him in town, which was a gorgeous facility, let me tell you.
Yeah.
It's an ER with doctor's offices and stuff. So it's not where they keep people. So we have to transfer him. Well, he's really not happy about that.
Right.
He is not happy at all. And he's letting all of us know he's not happy. He wants to go home and shower first. So the hospital's not happy. They're wanting me to sign all these forms. My sister and I are frustrated. And we give in. We are like, we're not going to fight. We're going to take you home. So my sister leaves to go get stuff situated. She's going to meet me back at the hospital. We go to get him. He gets up out of the bed. And he falls, everybody.
Yeah.
Watching your dad fall like that and smack his head on the it was not good. It was not good. Anyway.
Meanwhile, they're trying to figure out what's going on, some kind of infection.
We still don't know. We still don't know.
He's got a lot of pain going on.
Yes. Anyway, so now he's even more mad because guess what, everybody? Since he falls, he knows they're not letting me take him home to get a shower. And he's not happy. So listen, it was a couple days. It was a lot. And then my sister went and got him on Thanksgiving. He really wasn't in a good mood. So we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
And we'll probably be going to a restaurant or vacation next year. No, but so listen, I went and got my hair did today, and you hear everybody talking. Everybody had something.
Yeah.
Everybody had something on Thanksgiving,
right.
Whether it's a relative, a something, a trauma, a drama.
Right.
Everybody's got something.
Yep.
So you're not alone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And still not quite sure exactly what's going on.
No, we don't. We actually don't. He's in a place where he's okay to be home.
Yep.
But there's still, he's got to go to the doctor and run tests and all the things. So we have in a direction we're pointing, but you know, you get older and things start to go a little sideways. So we're trying to figure out what that sideways is.
So I have something that I'd like to talk about for a second because there is this problem. It's a theme throughout the older generation, and at this point, it's the baby boomer generation, right?
Yes,
they're getting older in their age, and there's this brick wall that you run into.
Okay, can I interject first? Because this conversation came up specifically about my dad, right? He's 77.
Yeah.
And, you know, things are just changing in his mind, his body, whatever.
Yeah.
So while he's in the hospital, my sister and I are talking to him because my dad's just always been a workhorse his whole life. But, you know, that generation, they didn't exercise even when the doctors told them, like, you need to stretch, you need to exercise. They don't do it. They just don't do it. So it's all catching up to him, right? So we've had some episodes with him, and my sister and I are kind of encouraging him, okay, it might be time to look at a retirement community.
Yeah.
And he's been just very agitated at the conversation of that. So, but while in the hospital, we had kind of a window with him where he was softened a little bit, and we said, okay, Dad, what about this? And he was open to it. He was very open to it. Well, that changed on the following day at Thanksgiving.
Right.
That changed because we started to have a conversation with him, and then he wasn't liking it too much.
Yeah.
So now so that's the stage we're setting here. So anyways, go ahead.
Yeah. And this is something that to both of your parents, to both of my parents, there's been a kind of ongoing discussion that becomes difficult because as you they're having a very hard time accepting the latter years of life.
Yeah.
And it's understandable, all that. It's very, very difficult. Retirement, very difficult stage, going into older years. But it's very, very challenging. There's like a block that's there because it could be an exciting next stage. And it doesn't have to be like, you know, like
a death sentence.
The word retirement community can kind of sound like, you know, or convalescent home, but even just something where you have access to like help if you need it that a little bit quicker.
Right. Like he has a shoulder surgery coming up. We can't help him with that. Like there's all these things that it's like, okay, if
Mm-hmm.
you're getting older,
Yeah.
you need help
Yeah.
and community.
Yeah, correct. Because the later you get in life, the more you need that social interaction,
Right.
to help the brain wiring, to help those things, also emotions and stuff like that. But also this sense of it's a good thing. It's like and I think it makes it very, very difficult to the point that it's like, what will it take? Will it take like a stage of something really, really bad happening, and now it has to have a massive change,
Right.
or because I'm trying to make a commitment that as I get older, if you or the kids go, hey, Dad, you got some issues going on, that I would be willing to go, all right, let me make the changes because my life affects the family.
Right. And I
it
think
affects others. And to see that as a good thing, even though there's grieving in it, and it can be very, very painful. I think of my limitations now. I've got hearing issues. I've got joint issues. They're all kinds. I'm only 48. Right. So I think of like,
we're like, we are going to be some pair.
we are. You and I are going to be something else when as the years get older.
Goodness.
Right. But I've come to terms with, the weakness, frailty, limitations that come about, and going, okay, I had to do what I got to do. And I even, talked to my parents about this. They'll chop wood in their backyard. They're both in their,
Right. We were like, you talk to your parents and what are they doing? Which they had promised you they were not going to do this anymore because it's quite taxing.
3 times ago, they promised me this is the last round. Last time we're going to chop wood. Last time I talked to them last week.
Right.
Guess what they did? Well, we found a truckload of wood. I'm not talking that pieces.
They're
of,
already cut. No.
No. We're talking giant logs. They're bringing in, putting it on a splitter. And at least they got a splitter. It's not just full axe, but
still,
there is some axe activity going on.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm down here in North Carolina. You're up there in Connecticut. I don't want to get a phone call. Hey, your mother and father are slumped over
Contraction at the hospital. Right.
no, they're slumped over on a wood splitter, and we had to go get them. There's a sense of like we got to stay busy, got to stay active.
And I appreciate that about your parents. Your mother walks every day. She tries to stay active, but right. And we're not there yet. So I don't, we don't get what they're going through, but yet we understand it. It's like, okay, letting go of your youth, as I'm going through menopause, I'm coming to terms with that, letting go of that. You're grieving certain things. And then to say, okay, maybe I need to go somewhere where there's community, where there's help.
Yeah.
Not every kid can take their parent in, and that's not good too for the relationship.
Right. Right.
A lot of that goes south with people, and it's not good.
Yeah.
It creates a lot of animosity that's just not helpful.
Yeah.
So, in trying to have conversations with them of like, okay, it's time, and then them being open to going, hold on a second. My kids are kind of expressing here some concern and taking that in. And I think the thing that you're even bringing out too is they don't go there with that. It's all about them. That seems to be very prominent in that generation.
Yeah.
They only think about themselves. They're not thinking, you know what, let me give some relief to my kids here and let me move into this so that we can keep a good relationship.
Right.
They don't do that.
Yep. Yes.
It's very difficult.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Mark and Melissa are not coasting through life when it comes to these family dynamics. That's for sure. We've had to do a lot of
are learning.
Healing, grieving, reprocessing.
Leaving the room, even though your body's there. You're hovering over a situation mentally.
Yeah. And on top of it, they may be listening. So, hi, Dad, if you're listening, but you need to recognize where you are.
I know mine isn't, okay? So that's the other thing I have to work through. Every Sunday, everybody, those of you that follow us, we do our podcast at 3 p.m. Guess when my dad decides to call, text, or ask me questions?
Yuppers.
Somewhere between 3 and 5 on Sunday.
Yeah, you know what I do, right? No.
No, actually, I don't think he does.
We got some stories. Yeah, but it's a thing, and I feel that, and I commit to that. As I get older, if Abby looks at me and goes, Dad, because if it's like I'll do it when I'm ready. At that point, it's late. It's late. It's way late in the game. It's like it's gotten so bad. Versus make it a good thing while things are okay. and find adjustments to make it work. Because your dad's like way out in the woods.
Yeah,
you know?
he's in a log cabin in the woods at the bottom of like a driveway with multiple houses in front of him. Like he's in the woods, and he doesn't want to give up his woodworking. You know, he has decent land where we can go down and shoot. Like there's all those things, but listen, it's all sad, but that's the next stage of life.
Yep, true.
But this is where too, you did such a great post on Facebook. I encourage everybody to go look at it. It's about the younger generation, but it really speaks to everybody on the importance of emotions and working through emotions and being able to label them, talk about them, in any stage you're at in life.
Yeah, and bringing out the idea that, yes, we're seeing many in the younger generation that are, we could say, overdoing it. You know, pathologizing everything. There's a mental health term for everything. And everybody's got something. Everyone's triggered. Everyone's got this. Everyone's got that. Okay, valid. However, it doesn't negate that we have been in another ditch for a long time. So don't discount something just because you see ditches being going into.
Yeah.
That we need to be able to navigate emotions and I say that to empower parents. Like, make that room in that space to have those conversations. It doesn't mean we have to be indulgent. It doesn't mean that we have to be helicopter parents. It doesn't mean we have to chase every little thing and every little thought and every little emotion. It's just having a general sense of allowing conversation to have your eyes up, you're looking out, because we need it. Our health needs it, not just our mental health. Our physical health actually needs it. And I watched I knew of somebody who lost. He was talking about his mother, and he watched her cognitive faculties erode after a loss of I think it was his stepfather, and he had passed away, and so now she's alone, and he watched his mother kind of erode out of that, like not having relationship.
Yep.
Like it's very, very good to just have that simple, like, you go play checkers, and we see that as like, you kind of throwing in the towel when really, no, it's your life matters.
Right.
And you matter to somebody. And I think it's important you matter to yourself in a good sense of like, I want to make this a good journey for my family.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. So.
Anything else you'd like to say about it?
No, I actually, yes, but I won't.
Right on.
Oh,
all right,
anyway.
I'm gonna actually jump right into questions today. Usually in the weekday, I just jump right into it. We do some other stuff.
Do it, boo.
On Sundays, but I do have a lot that I wanted to cover here. So let me get into this. A lot of interesting dives I'm going to go in today, and some interesting things I'm going to share about. So I pray this is a blessing for all of you. The first question I'm going to at the top of the stack has to do with the Orthodox Church. And somebody wrote into me about this. I said, submit it as a question because I'd like to give some feedback. I have a friend who used to attend the same non-denominational church as my wife and I a while back. This friend went through a hard season, battling some things that led her to do some searching. Recently, she told us that she had converted to Eastern Orthodoxy and that her conscience no longer allows her to attend a Protestant church. That's interesting. And that she's now attending an Orthodox church. That being said, as I've done some digging, I'm starting to realize that many Orthodox believers believe that they are the direct lineage of the early church, if you will, and that if someone isn't Orthodox, they aren't a Christian at all. Yeah, the Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church have both been in a battle when you trace history back of church history. You go back, and a lot of it has the line of the Catholic Church and Orthodox Church. And there is a bit of a battle there of who's the original church. And I do see in both streams a mindset of we're the exclusive one and we're the only one. And that gets into what it does is it takes now the Word of God, it takes Jesus Christ, but then it now narrows it down into how you practice the specifics of rituals and things like that, and make it that this is the only way. Now, Jesus is the only way, the truth, and the life. The Bible is the Word of God. I stand on that. We'll continue to stand on that, right? Now, how worship and rituals and routines go about can get certain rigidities and things like that. But then there's like this exclusivity. And I see it in both the Catholic Church as well as Orthodox. I don't have a ton of experience with the Orthodox Church, but just enough to kind of get that wavelength of what I hear, what I read, and what I see. And it's very, very concerning because it moves into, and hear me out now, it moves into somewhat of a controlling cult-like kind of approach. Now, when I use the term cult speaks of culture, right? I'm using a modern version of the word cult because in the early church, when the Church of Acts took place, and you saw the movement take place, called the Way, and the early findings of the start, the apostles, and from there, you could look and go, hey, these guys are a part of some weird cult, if we were to use the terminology. So you talk about cult, you talk about culture. I'm using it in the modern sense of cult where it can be, it can have dangers to it. And there's a spectrum when I use the term cult or spiritual abuse and things like that. There's a spectrum of it. There's cult, like very dangerous cult. Then there's cult-like kind of tendencies. So like even in some churches, many churches, mega churches or certain, many of you've been to them where there are cult-like things that go on. Highly controlled. It's hard to get out. A lot of guilt, a lot of performance, a lot of those kind of things that come about. It is concerning. It's like a control mechanism. We're the only church. And when you look into it, what are you talking about? Are you talking about Jesus is the only way? Or the way that you do your rituals, routines, and those things is the only way? The thing, though, that this appeals to people that want all the rules listed out. They have a sense of need for certainty. They want to box it all in and have it all figured out. For example, the Catholic Church, they take a lot of pride in like having very, very long write-ups and opinions and stances on all kinds of issues down to nitty-gritty, details. And that feeds people's like, I want to have answers to everything. It's concerning though, because it does welcome a large form of controlling legalism and a religious leaven. And we have to always be aware of that kind of mindset, especially when you're a Christ follower and you see another Christ follower and you have a sense of superiority and you know more than them. That's a flag right there. That's a flag. Even people that gain freedom in Christ, right? They're like, wow, I'm free and I have liberty and freedom. They can turn and look at people who, quote, don't have the freedom and like look down on them with contempt. I always want to push back against that mindset in any kind of way. Even if you're coming into greater, I saw this a lot in Pentecostal circles where they'd go, yeah, this brother, he's a believer. He's not spirit-filled though. Like, come on, why do we have to do that? Because he doesn't speak in tongues? It's like now there was like upgrades. If you spoke in tongues, you were more in an upgraded place. So that's some of that is your friend probably you mentioned that she was going through a hard season, battling. Well, what happens is certain cultures in church, certain church cultures can go, oh, we have an answer for that. We have an answer for that. We have an answer to that. Do this, 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 and this, and this. And it feeds our sense of like stability. It kind of pulls on our sense of lack of parenting, right? We didn't have healthy parenting. So we look for somebody to go, here it is, this, 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 and this. We go, thank you. And there can be good to that. But there's also can be a lot of concerning things at all, especially this all or nothing. You aren't a Christian at all if you're not in our specific rituals and routines. Some even believe Protestants worship a different God entirely. It's like, okay. The funny thing is if I talk to an Orthodox person, you believe in the risen Savior, you believe in Jesus Christ, you believe the Bible is the Word of God. I can hang out and talk with you. Funny thing is, you may not feel you can talk to me. It's interesting. They seem to believe that rituals, liturgy, are ultimately what bring you close to God and lead you to sanctification. Nah, wrong, false. Nope. I'll stand on that. I'll stand on that. Nope. That's a big no. Big no. No.
What you talking about, Mark? You got to get your doctrine right. Are you right with God? You got to have all the proper standards. What are you talking about? What you standing on? You got to stand on some of these rituals the Lord has shown them to us. You got to have them. By the way, get your tie on. Why aren't you on the show without wearing a tie?
So that those rituals lead to closer to God and to sanctification, not a personal relationship with God. I've been on a journey learning the grace of God. Awesome. Overcoming scrupulosity. Awesome. Salvation OCD. Awesome. Things like guilt confession and the belief that I haven't done enough to be saved. Yeah, right on. Regardless of my progress, I've also felt like my own growth has been stalled for a while now. And I've always wondered if I'm missing something in my faith or walk. So with what I know about scrupulosity and OCD, as you work through it, navigate it through it, you do hit a lot of realizations of the doldrums. You hit low, you hit like a low. It might be a depression. It might be a sense of like, And a lot of Christians become very vulnerable in those places. You don't feel as passionate. You don't feel as alive. And they go, I don't feel as on fire for God. And then I oftentimes I ask them, I go, I don't know, as we're talking, it doesn't seem like you're on fire about life. This isn't just about your walk with God. It just seemed like there's kind of a low you're going through. And they go, well, yeah, okay, all right. Maybe, maybe not. But what that is it's the recalibrating. That stage is a recalibration for the OCDer. I went through it myself. But like something's wrong. I went through that in marriage. Something's wrong if we're not in this like amazing place. And then I appreciated like just kind of the nothing moments, or not a lot is going on, or we're just hanging out. In my walk with God, same thing, where I had to recognize this kind of like, oh, I don't feel this like thing, this like passion. You know, Tim Tebow would jump in and go, well, you're not on fire. You know, and no, I actually have grown. I would say I've actually grown more through the low times than I have through the high times. I'll tell you why. Because it caused me to grow deeper in maturity. Just like in a marriage, right? Where you go through those difficult seasons or whatever, you know, where that it's not just this high, you know what I'm talking about? And actually where Melissa and I grew deeper in appreciation, deeper in actual love, right? Same thing in our walk with God. And then what it does is it makes the whole thing, you appreciate the whole journey so much more, because now you're seeing this isn't like this thing that has to be only super intense or nothing at all. In that kind of low space, many believers become vulnerable to the intrusive, you're not saved, you're not sanctified enough, or point to some sin or something, and now you're starting to spin and spiral. Versus going, okay, God, this is a new stage of trusting in you. This is a new stage of going, I'm all right. I'm going to keep walking. I'm going to keep taking a step forward in my life, my journey. That's where I think you actually are. But your friend over there gets a sense of certainty with all these rules and regulations, which, by the way, church, Galatians is a massive rebuke to that. I don't know what they do with the book of Galatians. When Paul literally says you go into these, you're going back into those things, these calendar dates, these rituals, these things, that we, for freedom, Christ has set us free. Do not be entangled with the yoke of bondage. I'll give my preach on. I haven't entered a full spin cycle about this, but my friend's embrace of Orthodoxy and seeing how it's helped her has made me ask some questions. Now, please understand, people come to my channel from Orthodox churches and Catholic churches and then some. Seeing how it's helped her made me ask some questions. I'm starting to see OCD creep in and whisper things like, what if you are worshiping the wrong God? What if you really do need to pray to the saints, go to confession, fast a ton, etc., in order to not be rejected by Jesus? Well, I'd give you a bunch of scriptures to go, that's absolutely not biblical and not true. However, it trends well. Performance-driven Christianity trends really well. And in fact, many top voices out there pull on this performance kind of lens from people and feed that sense of like, give me the rules, tell me the rituals, the things to do, rather than teaching people about freedom in Christ, teaching them about their empowerment and grace, the learning process, what Jesus really paid for. And man, we've gotten so shackled up in all these added things, Jesus plus 1,000 things, that it's like the sacrifice on the cross wasn't enough. His resurrection wasn't enough.
That's good.
So anyways, I recognize OCD's voice, and I'm doing okay when it comes to resisting the compulsion to research, but it's tempting. And I know that researching theology is an endless mountain to climb and will ultimately become a compulsion. What are your thoughts? Yeah, and I think I do my share of times, even in theology, where I'm like, I'll spend, do I have this thing right? Do I have that thing right? And I don't feed the compulsion in that moment. I let that thing just settle down, and then maybe I'll at another time look at it where I'm not just chasing disturbance, right? But I have to remain focused on where I'm being discipled, and all of us need to do that. Like, remain focused on where you're being discipled. But the problem is when you go on social media, it's like 10 reasons you need to be ready for the rapture. This thing, do you know the end times? Right? It's like, are you reading the right version of the Bible? And you're like, oh, you get pulled. I think we have to be more stewarding of our attention now more than ever, because our attention is being pulled at. In fact, your attention is actually being purchased. You understand that? Your eyes, your attention, your finger scrolling is being purchased. There are people advertising and targeting for your attention. And that includes even faith-based stuff too. So just understand that, right? Because they know what triggers and what gets attention. And what gets attention is getting people afraid or getting people angry. And those two things get people watching and viewing, gets them emotionally stirred up. So anyways, but brother, I think you're on the right track, and this thing is something that I think is worth mentioning, because that sense of like your specific church, there's many other churches that are the same way. They act like they're the only place. And I've witnessed actual churches that think like this. I've been in where I've been exposed to ministries that thought like this. Like, yeah. They don't have the insight that we have. They really thought that way, that they had an inside track to God that no one else had. And I'm very cautious of those kind of mindsets. Like, nah. I can look at a Baptist. I didn't grow up Baptist, went to an independent fundamental Baptist school, so I know a lot about that, and have had many Baptist friends I can appreciate. I can see some areas I go, I don't know, Pentecostals, Charismatics, Presbyterians. Yeah. I can fellowship with many, many believers with the core important things. Now, I have some things of concern, that people I feel in Christianity go astray, that I see from the Word of God is very concerning. But I always want to be cautious about that mindset. I've got it and they don't. So stay in humility, everyone. Stay on the humble journey. This is a question about intrusive thoughts and like being the thoughts being in the generations. Hi, Mark. I've been watching your content, reading your books for several years. Really appreciate the work you do and your approach. I have a question that came up between my wife and I was wondering if you could weigh in on it. I don't recall that you've addressed this before, but if you have, you could just send me the video. Yeah, there's a lot of videos I talk about blasphemous thoughts, and it's blasphemous thoughts are like one of the main themes that comes about with scrupulosity and OCD, just so you know. I struggle with very intense blasphemous thoughts off and on for 10 years, from around the age of 13 to around 23. I'm 37. At the time, I did not realize it, but my dad and my grandma both have struggled with the same thing and done so for years. My grandma is now 84 and is in assisted care facility, is on very strong medication for depression and intrusive thoughts, etc. The subject came up at a recent family gathering. Was it Thanksgiving? Which led to a conversation between my wife and I about the situation. My wife, who has never struggled with any of this type of thing, thinks that the fact that multiple generations of our family have dealt with this could mean that it is demonic in nature, or that it's the effect of generational sin and something that we could try to cut off. I'm open to that idea. But I just want to be careful, because seeking deliverance and cutting things off in the name of Jesus typically just made things worse for me. Yeah, I do have material on this about spiritual warfare and OCD. One is a more long-form video where I explain it all out. There's another one I did short, like, is OCD a demon? And so I kind of highlight some of that. We are in a spiritual battle, but we are in a way that often deliverance ministries teach. They as soon as you said your sentence, it's come in the generations, like a deliverance minister comes swooping in, like, okay, we're going to pray these prayers, and like I said, I can see, I've seen value in that. That's where I spent many years in that avenue. I saw value in understanding deliverance principles, but there was a lot of it. I would say a vast majority of it that I had to detox from, because it gets on these tangents. It hooks onto certain scriptures in ways a bit out of context, creates an obsession with the devil. It feeds on fear of evil, and it produces a lot of legalism. You got to close the door. I have open doors, closed doors, a lot of doors. There's a lot of doors that you got to deal with. And they're all open, and you got to close them, get them closed, because the enemy has a legal right, legal access. It's like another form of religious leaven that comes in, though. So while I can understand the idea and principle that we're at war, and keep that in mind, that we're at a battle, but there's a couple things here, because we're talking about generations. Now, in mental health battlegrounds, it is a fact of observation. This is not Mark Jesus' opinion. It's a fact of observation of certain battlegrounds of mental health in that category that run in families. For whatever reason we could dissect and look at, they run in families. And the thing is that there's a variety of factors. So the problem with OCD is we then, in deliverance, is you chase the content. So there's a blasphemous evil spirit. I command that blasphemous evil spirit in the name of Jesus to leave. We do the repentance prayers. That's one thing. Repent and renounce it in my generation, right? Then there's another level, because they're like, blasphemous, that's a cult. You have a cult in your generation. So we got to go into your generations. You got to find it. Like, oh, there's Freemasonry. We got to go to the Freemasonry there. Oh, okay, but your great-grandmother on your mother's side and on, wait, no, that was a stepmother. Wait, that's not a bloodline. I don't know. But the stepmother was there, but then she slimed with the witchcraft. They were slimed because they were around her. And then, wait, the neighbor put a curse on me. Maybe it was, so now I see what happens. And for obsessors, they're now chasing it. And when I was doing a lot of repentance and renouncing ministry, looking back, I would say the majority of everyone who came to my teachings and came to me for one-on-ones had a form of OCD. They were chasing the topic of their intrusive thoughts, and it's a trick. It gets you now lost in a cycle. I had a thought about touching someone's butt. There's a lust spirit. It's been in my generations, right? Now you could map. Let me give you a little secret, folks. Okay, just between me and you. You can map lust in every single family, just to let you know.
Right.
The only difference between your family and another family, come closer, okay? Come closer so you hear this. The only difference between your family and another family is who hides it better, okay?
Right. Exactly.
Okay? So it's like, now, obsessors, we see it flowing from generation to generation. The way that generational patterns work is, yes, there's the aspect of sin that's being inherited, right? Certain sin patterns can be inherited, certainly. But there's also cultural reinforcement around it. The family dynamic reinforces the mindset. So with OCD, you've got a couple, if you want to call them demons. Okay, here are the pressure points. Number one is fear. Every family has fear. Everyone. OCDers, though, have a sense of perfectionistic fear and a just rightness, that they live in fear, and there's a control mechanism that's in it. So it's reinforced in the generations. So your parents growing up, they reinforce some of your tendencies that then get replicated, right? It's like a mother who has high control issues and is super controlling with the kid. The kid is going to probably at some point replicate those control issues or go into a complete opposite ditch. And that's what happens with generational patterns. We either go right into the lane or we go into a complete opposite ditch because we're like, I don't want to ever go in there, right? It's like the reaction. We can kind of repeat it or rebel. Repeat it or rebel. They're both ditches, right? So fear and then religious leaven. There's a call it a religious spirit. What are you going to do? You're going to cast out a religious spirit? I've never in 30 years of ministry saying, I command a Pharisaical spirit to leave. Now the person just all of a sudden lives out of grace. And all of a sudden they just understand the righteousness of Christ and they're just free from all their performance driven. No, it's a journey in that. It's an entanglement. It's a leaven. The third area is condemnation. Is that you approach God from a condemnation lens, which is shame, guilt. So all those things are interwoven into the imprint So really, this is a generational change is about discipleship. But we have these hustlers out there. We're going to break these curses and sign up for my program or whatever. And we kind of hustle these instant things. And it's a trick. Because here's what they do. Come, we're going to pray over you in the name of Jesus. You come back and you go, hey, I'm not seeing breakthrough. Oh, okay. We got to check all the other doors now. And you've all of you that have been through it, you know what I'm saying is true. You've been through it. And then they're always, what a deliverance minister will never tell you is, you know what? I don't know. I maybe there's something I need to work on. They'll never tell you that. They'll just kind of throw more things on you and stuff like that. Even though it started with a promise of we're going to pray through this. So this is now process, or you don't change generations in a prayer. You change them in your journey. So I am living proof of generational change. There are many things I could list that do not exist in the last generation. Love you, Mom and Dad. They don't exist. I had to start them from scratch, certain areas that I'm plowing into, that I'm living out, right? In so many areas. And none of it came about through just a prayer. Now, I'm not saying don't pray. I'm not saying prayer isn't powerful, but we want the instant switch. No, it's a journey. So it's like moving a ship that's been going in one direction into another. It takes time. It takes renewal. It takes practice. It takes putting the old away, putting the old man on, putting the new man on, putting new thinking on, right? We're constantly being accused, must be a demon, and then we're chasing demons, and then we need the instant fix. We don't see the instant fix, so we're condemned. But with OCDers, you're dealing with fear, you're dealing with religious leaven, and you're dealing with condemnation, which includes accusation. I talk about that in one of my videos. And they're constantly self-accused because they live according to law. They live according to performance. It doesn't mean you're not a Christian. It doesn't mean your salvation's negated. It just means there's been an infection. And when Paul rebuked the Galatian church, he didn't tell them they weren't saved or that their salvation, and he even said, you're estranged from Christ. He used strong language, right? He wasn't like, go back and get resaved. He's like, no, make the course correction because you're allowing this leaven, which comes in, and we know that leaven, when it comes into the bread, it's going to infect the whole mold. It's not like, well, I'm just going to follow this one rule that makes me feel better about my life with Jesus. Right? Makes me feel righteous. It's like, it don't work like that. That thing is going to grow the spores of it are just going to keep growing and growing. So your discipleship journey is actually getting rooted in the love of the Father, healing your broken heart, and growing in the grace of God. That's a journey. That's a journey. See, but I'm not promoting quick fixes. I'm promoting a journey that you're going to walk on of renewal. Because let's say we took the light switch and I went, bam, right? Like there's times I prayed for people and I'm just like, you don't have much time. So I'm just like, in the name of Jesus, and I would just command that fear, right? And they'd go, wow, I feel such peace. And I'd go, because I don't want to play these games. Hey, this person's delivered. They're completely delivered. Why don't you testify? I'm not into that. That's what I would tell them. I said, see the peace you feel right now? I said, I want you to just anchor yourself in it because you're going to have more of this that you're going to have to work through. This is a moment of just what I've worked through and my prayer for you. Prayer is important. It's valuable and powerful, but you got to walk and you got to journey. And people would write back or call back and go, yep, you were right. You're right. Right? We've taught people modalities that are not true to what we actually go through. We're not preparing people properly. And then we condemn them when they're not seeing freedom, when they're actually listening to what they've been taught. See what I'm saying? So your wife and you are looking and going, wow, we see this in the generations. What you can do is you can get equipped in understanding how to face these things and work through them. And what you don't realize is strongholds actually being broken, and you didn't necessarily pray this dramatic prayer or do this special mixture of words that you said. It was just doing the daily walk, because repentance is moving from one way of thinking into another. And many of us are leaving the fears of our generations. Our generations are chock full of fear, chock full of lust, chock full of anger, chock full of all kinds of strife and shame. Everyone's got it. So if you go, my generation, everyone's got it. It's the nature of iniquity. It's just the nature of what it brings about. And performance, with so much performance-driven homes, right? So we can approach this to try to chase this stuff, or we can take John's approach. Perfect love casts out fear. And I teach you about what it means to be rooted in his love for you and face your fears step by step, layer by layer. And because in not feeding your compulsion, what you're telling your inner man is, I do not need to do that thing, that compulsion, to be okay in my standing with Christ. That's what you're telling. So starving compulsions is actually a discipleship journey. We just don't call it that. Like, oh, that's a mental health term. I can teach you in mental health. I can teach you out of the Word of God either way. Whichever wording and language is going to help just click into your mind. But Melissa and I are both proof of generational change. We're not a finished product. We haven't arrived. Nowhere near. We're on a journey, and we have no pressure to arrive. But everything that we have experienced that's been fruitful in our home has come out of process. And yes, prayer is there. When we pray firm. We encourage our kids, pray confidently, right? But especially when it comes to OCD, what you had in your generations is a cluster of things and how you react to intrusive thoughts. The blasphemous thoughts that came to you and your father and your grandmother, everyone gets. 90-something% of people have intrusive thoughts. Okay? So with that said, there is a collection of people, though, that those thoughts hook on them easier. Why? Because of the way they relate to fear, the way they have perfectionistic tendencies, that religious leaven, they're very self-accusatory, condemning, just right, performance pressure. Now we've got a cocktail that latches onto these thoughts. And so we've done, there's a lot of you've been under it too. Come and do this and you'll get free from all that. And it's just more of that like quick fix hustle that's going on out there. So I pray that helps you, encourages you. Write to me and let me know if that helps, because I'd like to give you some feedback to that. All right, let's get into some more good stuff here. I got questions on all kinds of topics here. Purity culture. I got two of them here that have to do with purity culture. And I don't know that I've addressed that specifically, but I'll be more than happy to. Dear Mark, I know you talk about codependency a bit on your channel. I'm not sure if you're aware of the term purity culture. Yes, I am. This type of religious culture is highly connected to codependency, religious OCD, in my opinion. Here's purity culture in a nutshell. The core idea revolves around virginity, modesty, and purity, mainly seen as something physical, and it contributes to a lot of religious OCD in the dating realm. Yeah, I'm very, very familiar with what people call purity culture. So I was a youth pastor in the midst of a lot of that, what people are referring to. I don't necessarily have a completely negative viewpoint on what's called purity culture. And I'll tell you why. As a youth pastor, when I had a youth group of, at its largest, it was about 150 kids. And I would say at least a quarter to half the kids were either being tempted to sleep around or we had to talk about sex a lot and temptation in that regard. And I did my best to support the parents, but a lot of kids that were in the youth group didn't have Christian homes. Many of them came from very broken homes. I got to the point as a youth pastor where I could almost project someone's trajectory just by like what's going on. Not to like say, yeah, this is your destiny, but you could kind of see, unless something happens differently, this is where things could lead to. So I understand where the church was going. My goodness, like everyone's being tempted to sleep around here. And so as a youth pastor, you see all this going on. And it's kind of reminds me of Paul when he was teaching the Corinth church. Very fiery church, a lot of good things going on. But he's like, hey, by the way, don't sleep with prostitutes, and don't sleep with your father's wife. I'm guessing that's the stepmother. He's like, hey, I got to teach you about. There's a lot of sexual immorality talk in Corinthians. Why? Because there's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of going on in the church back then, and there's a lot of that going on today. And we need teaching and help in it. Most people get lectured about it, about how bad it is and so forth, and understood. There was a missing piece though, and I saw it. We weren't dealing with the relational brokenness of people looking for love in all the wrong places. Our broken hearts are crying out, and sexual connection gives a dopamine, gives a rush of a feeling of some kind of connection that they're lacking, right? So, but during that time, I do remember there was a book called I Kissed Dating Goodbye. It was a very popular book by a guy named, what was it, Joshua something?
Yeah.
I think he ended up like saying that he turned away from God or something like that, or became super progressive and whatever. But I will be honest with you. During that time, I was chuckling about the book and the concept because if I remember correctly, it was like dating's a waste of time. Just wait till courting and just look towards that. And when people in the church would ask me, I do have a sarcastic streak to me. People would ask me about the book. I said, well, I've read another book. It's called I Kissed Dating Goodbye. I kissed the book. I Kissed Dating Goodbye. And some people were like, oh, I really like that book. You're making fun of it. I'm like, well, it kind of has a black and white kind of perspective to it and does bring in some legalism to it. It's not allowing people to have a healthy relationship with it. There was also a lot of times too where there would be seminars. I saw ministries come through. I went to some of their events where they would give a presentation and talk about it, and they'd have people make commitments. I'm going to hold off sex till marriage, right? And many people today, they react negative. Oh, that purity culture. And I'm like, you got to understand what the church was going through at the time. You see, whenever you look back at history, even just 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we like to insert sometimes what we're doing now and shove it back there. But it's like they were trying to help people, trying to help young people to make strong commitments, like don't make, some big mistakes and things you're going to have to deal with down the road. And they were trying to have these events to encourage in a positive way that. Now, within that, there was a lot of intense, because the church is predominantly performance driven. So you have to remember that. So with that legalism, and then there's a lot of rules that get. Meanwhile, we were needing to equip parents. So then there were parents that are like, oh, I'm scared my kid's gonna sleep around. So then dads would like scramble and panic because their wife was like, hey, you got to talk to our daughter. And he's like, okay, takes his daughter on a date, honey. And he has an awkward, like, here's a ring, have a promise ring, right? It's like, okay, that's fine. But it's about the bond. Develop a bond with your children. Everything in parenting flows out of the bond, not out of the rules. The rules flow out of the relationship bond that you develop. The parent's primary goal is you develop a bond. Unfortunately, many fathers didn't develop a bond because they went, my kid, I'll wait till they're 12 and he can throw a football. And well, by the time that happens, he ain't interested in throwing it with you. He's found other avenues to, and then you're like, he doesn't care. I don't know what to do. So there were a lot of panic reactions. Meanwhile, many of you under certain legalistic structures had a lot of heavy-handed added list of things that gave you a poor relationship with marriage, the topic of marriage, and the topic of sex. So many couples go into marriage and they're having panic attacks on their honeymoon, or they're having uncomfortable feelings, or they're like, I don't know what I'm doing, because they were told so long what not to do. They never had any conversation and equipping in like, what is this whole thing of sex and what is intimacy in? So even with our children, we try to, in our home, have a sense of like, I'd rather you hear it from me and hearing stuff from, out there, and we have conversations about it. So it's not an awkward subject. And because I didn't have it, and those kind of like ongoing conversations, maybe just a couple awkward kind of, kind of where you're like, as a kid, like, can we get this over with, So that was needed. So meanwhile, we spent a lot of time talking about what not to do, but we never talked about what does it look like to be loved by God. So many kids in the youth group were just like fatherless, disconnected. I even had to talk to kids in the youth group to like their dads who were like leaders in the church. And that was very awkward for me because I was young, and it was like awkward having a conversation with like a leader in the church. I'm like, hey, your son really needs your attention. I would really recommend you take some time to spend. I can just see the kid is just like, oozing a need for his dad's approval, or daughter, I'm like, do you have some date nights? Can you do some, and you're like trying not to tell him what to do. But it's like part of me wants to go, are you listening to me? And then what would happen is they would call me. It'd be 9:00 at night and the phone's ringing. Mark, my son's doing dope and I'm like, Sometimes I felt like I was Willy Wonka in the chocolate factory, when he tells the kid, like, don't go in the chocolate. And the kid just goes and he goes, don't. And eventually Willy Wonka just goes, just don't, whatever. And the kid just goes in the chocolate. And he goes with the little whistle. So anyways, to set that up, I have a lot of experience in that. And I was like, this I Kiss Dating Goodbye version of this kind of stuff is, it's an overreaction to a fear that your kids are going to sleep around, someone's going to get pregnant, blah, 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 blah. Then goes on and on, rather than getting to the root issue. So anyway, it contributed to a lot of religious OCD in the dating realm. I could see that. For example, dating must be headed towards marriage from day one. Right, there comes the intense. Girls should live with their parents until they marry. Now, it would be nice. It'd be nice, right? We were just talking this with Abby the other day about, what does the future look like at those stages? It'd be nice, but stuff happens and things, right? Not every girl is going to get married like right out of high school, or right. So there isn't a fixed rule. I understand the mindset. Breakups are treated like mini divorces. Yeah, that's an overreaction there. And dating is practicing for divorce. Yeah, I heard that. That's an actual quote I grew up with reading in the purity culture books. I think this creates a lot of perfectionism in relationships. Yeah, not wanting to toe the line or get with the wrong person, not understanding attraction versus lust, and more. I'd love it if you could write a book on that. I love when people say, Mark, can you write a book on this? Right. I am neck deep in book writing right now. I'm just wondering what the extent of your knowledge is. Do you have any ideas overcoming being raised in purity culture? Yeah, it's recalibrating, It's recalibrating. Let me just say this. Most Christians were not prepared for sex in marriage. They just weren't. Most Christians are not prepared for marriage. It doesn't mean don't get married, because the best learning is actually in marriage anyways, because you're never really ready anyways. I said this in a live yesterday. There's similarities in like following Christ and marriage. Not exactly, but Paul made the analogy, marriage and Christ in Ephesians. Jesus is like, just follow me. Yeah, but what's it gonna, just follow me, right? And there is an aspect of get married, and that's when you're really gonna do the learning. Premarital counseling's good, right? Give you some tools and some things to be mindful of. But most people in premarital counseling aren't paying attention. They're not paying attention. So back when this is decades ago, I would tell couples, can we commit to meeting after you're married? Because I could tell they're just like, they're either like, oh, we're just so in love, we just never fight, or they're just like, yeah. I got the wedding cake. I got to get this thing ready. Right. They're just preoccupied with other stuff. It's like trying to talk to your kids about like owning a home. They just don't care. Okay, Dad. Yeah. Make sure when you buy a house. Now, when my kids buy a home, they're going to be like, Dad, the furnace or the AC, like, oh, now you're paying attention. We got to get you in it where now it matters. Yeah. So it's about recalibrating. And it sounds to me like many people got a version of legalism within it. I didn't see it as all bad. I saw the church trying. I really did. I really did. It was a mess. I had kids in the youth group get pregnant. You had to deal with that. Youth workers, stuff happened. It was. I don't miss that part of the journey. But it was tough, and you're trying as a leader to graciously walk with people. Meanwhile, they're meeting with me in a room with 100 other kids once a week, maybe, and then they're going home to something totally different. right? Many of them, zero spiritual biblical input. And then many of the parents were kind of disengaged, and they wanted me to be the parent. It was frustrating. There was one thing I did, and it was given to me through counsel of the leadership of the church. They recommended when I first started as a youth pastor. You think your ministry is to the kids. It's not. The first thing I did was I took a list of all of the parents, and I just did my best to call them. That was during daytime hours, so a lot of people were at work. I tried to call who was available and just go, hey, how can I serve your family? What are some things that could be helpful? I'm a supplement. That's changed. The church has kind of become, we kind of look at the church like many people look at the government. Like when you want the government to like just give you a bunch of stuff. And we want the church to just, we kind of go to the church like that, when really the Church of Jesus Christ should be built on families that they're cultivating this in their own life. And as we come together, we're sharpening each other and contributing one to another. And the tribe now, there's a beneficial tribe because other people are reinforcing what the parents are doing. But now we have broken homes, we have divided families, we got a mess going on. So there's another question that I think kind of ties into this. I think it goes into some ROCD, but I think it was purity culture. I was raised in purity culture. Not sure if you're familiar with the term. Basically, I was raised with a religious emphasis on performance and following God's command, doing a lot of self-introspection, making sure we follow the rules in order to please God. Due to all the scrupulous self-examination, I think I subconsciously internalized that I wanted to marry too much. Right. This gets into the idolatry thing. Yeah, you're right. It was idolatry. And I needed to give up that desire to God in order to be a good Christian submitted to God's will. That was my mindset. Yep. That was my mindset. I needed to surrender this. And really, my heart was longing for it. And be honest, my heart was longing for connection. I was often drawn to like other people and going over their houses. And I was longing for this connection. So then I was obsessed over, man, I got to get this thing right when it comes to marriage. Then I was on church staff, so I felt this extra pressure. Pastor, you got to have this thing right. And, so it was debilitating. However, after years of passively waiting on God, we gotta catch that waiting on God stuff. It's often Christian passivity that we call waiting on God. Waiting for Prince Charming to come along, I find myself in confusion over whether I even want to be married. You do. You just in some confusion. It's all right. I'm a 25-year-old single female with zero prospects in sight. I'm not sure whether I should be actively trying to date and pursuing a relationship. And I just feel like I'm not sure how to approach this since I'm not certain what my desires truly are or how to take action. I would love your advice in moving forward and providing some clarity on this topic. So you do want to be married. There's a lot of confusion that you have. And so it's created a lot of pressure. You do seem to exhibit obsessive compulsive tendencies. I don't think the answer is actively try to pursue dating. I think at this stage, pursue friendships at your age. If I was in my 20s right now, I would probably go find I would first try to see, is there a church with people my age that have stuff going on? And I would probably just go and just hang out and go to the events, get to know, make some friends. And within that, I find that's the best place to often meet somebody for marriage. Nothing wrong with online dating and all that stuff, but that's a lot of pressure. It's like, you got to like select the person and look at their profile picture, which is probably fake. You
know what? I will tell you, I know a lot of people that have met.
Correct. I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm just talking about ideally. Ideally, you would like to be in a group where someone can at least like vouch for someone's character. Yes, because
yours.
It's important because in a way, I felt like I had this with you. I was able to observe your character without the like, "Hi, my name is Mark."
True.
Right?
Yeah.
There was that sense, like I saw your hunger for God. I saw like
we were in the same community.
Right?
Yeah.
And you saw my excellent joke skills and.
Mm-hmm. Babe, so. You and I both said I don't know how dating today seems terrifying.
Yeah, it does seem very
It does
difficult.
seem more difficult.
I have a lot of compassion and empathy for it. Yeah.
Someone said to, hold on, there was a comment here. What did someone say about addressing, where is it? Now the church isn't addressing the depopulation or singles agenda.
I don't know what that means.
Depopulation meaning, Christina, meaning like there's not a lot of singles. I wanted to ask her what she meant.
That's right. While you do that, let's.
I'll see if she says anything back.
Let's take a let's take a dance break,
Okay.
and we'll come back. All right, so we're gonna get into some stuff here. I'm gonna address this question as best I can. I'm not gonna do a long form kind of response to this, but a question came in. It was a mental health podcast, and it has to do with a podcast channel, a lady named Allie Beth Stuckey. And those of you that, if you follow conservative politics, you'd be totally aware of her. Anyway, she had a guy on named Dr. Greg Gifford. And somebody wrote in and said, Allie's a popular YouTuber and recently did a session on October 31st with Dr. Greg Gifford. Lies Your Therapist Tells You, book with the same title. I'd be interested in your review on this. Well, question asker. I did something I didn't really want to do because I know that many times when I watch these kind of episodes, I'm going to get upset. I'm going to get irritated. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to have an exposure therapy session where I'm going to go through, I'm going to feel what I feel and give some feedback. I want to first say that I have a lot of concerns about political discourse. I appreciate conservative, political, even Christian people or people. I hold fast to what would be called conservative values. And I don't apologize for that, but I believe that we can remain very, very loving and gracious within discourse and conversation and interaction with people. I'm a believer that we can listen, we can learn, you can talk with people you disagree with, and you might be able to learn something. The political climate has now infiltrated how we interact, period. Social media has had a lot to do with that. And social media has empowered political kind of talk. What I mean by that is intense black and white kind of statements, very gotcha kind of statements, incredibly argumentative, very shaming, pointing out, I'm right, you're wrong. And then in the interaction, just character assassinating somebody, right? So you even lose track of the conversation because now you're just attacking the person personally. My concern is that that has now infiltrated how church and Christians are interacting online. It's gotten to the point where I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed of how Christians interact online. So with that said, there's a lot of snarkiness in the political talk, and many political commentators bring on certain authors or things like that. And when you're talking about mental health, and then you bring in a subject that's talking about people's emotions, trauma, and pain, it can very easily get into this kind of condemning and everything you're doing wrong, right? And I don't know exactly how helpful that is. Now, I'll get into I don't know the gentleman. He seems to have a very large portfolio and in his schooling and training and all that, and the university he works at and all that. I don't know anything about it, but I listened to the whole thing. And I don't have necessarily time to go through the whole thing, because I told my wife this. I said, I feel like there were sentences where I would have to stop at like every 3 words to like bring correction to what they were saying, because there were a lot of black and white sweeping statements that were just, and that I'm always very, very concerned about that. One of the black and white sweeping statements they said is psychology doesn't believe in the soul. It's just not true, and it's out of context, that statement. So what they did was they say psychology doesn't believe in the soul, so we're going to build on that to then go to other conversations. And I'm like, wait a second. What you're saying is not exactly in the way you're saying it. Now, I'm not a defender of psychology. I'm a defender of what is true. Okay. And so I will look at things in the church as well as things in psychology and go, if it's true, it's true, right? It's not that psychology doesn't believe in the soul, and you can go into their materials and things and look for yourself. It's not that they don't believe in the soul. It's a secular avenue. So I'm not going to expect to go talk to a psychologist and have them go, well, tell me about your faith walk in Jesus Christ. Are you rooted in God's word? No. They're going to talk from a generic standpoint about thoughts and thinking, but they do make room for, they're supposed to respect your faith grid. Now, typical psychologists are dealing with people from all different kinds of backgrounds. If you're a social worker, especially, oh my goodness, right? And if you work at a secular counseling department, you're going to get all kinds of different backgrounds. You kind of have to be respectful about their faith journey, right? Because you're there to deal with like thought process and things that happen. So it's not that they negate the soul. Even in physical medical science, they don't negate the soul, but they're there purely, hopefully, from a scientific standpoint, trying to bring care, medicine to your body, but they don't negate it. For example, there's studies and research that shows that prayer actually helps people recover. They've done extensive studies on showing people who, I believe it was cancer, that people who practice effective forgiveness, it helps their recovery from cancer multiple fold. There's all kinds of studies going on that they recognize, but they're not going to promote. So they started the discussion like that, and they went into this kind of brain and mind division that was like, I feel like this would just make people spin in circles. One of the big things that they covered, it's a common thing. I bump up into this all the time, and I go to the point where I go, okay, just look at my writings on this. It's the concept of self-love. And it's probably one of the most confusing subjects out there. I talk about self-compassion, what it means to be loving towards yourself as God loves you. I'm a big believer in healing how you see God, how you see yourself, how you see other people. I believe all 3 avenues are a part of the journey. And I have a whole book, God Loves Me and I Love Myself, that explains it. I had to do a lot of explaining in this topic. So they did a lot of like self-love bashing, because the way they interpret it is an exaltation of self, lifting up yourself. That's not love. And I hate to break it to you, psychology doesn't even call that love. They call that forms of narcissism. Okay, forms of it. Doesn't mean you're narcissist if you're puffing yourself up, but it's in the scale. It's on it. So it's like this. It's like when people bash mega churches, right? And they bash megachurch. There's plenty of things we could talk about that are very concerning. But the stuff sometimes people bring up, I go, you don't know what you're talking about. That's if you want some stuff that's concerning, I'll show you over here. Same thing with psychology. The things we pick on, Like they'll go, this Freudian stuff. No, even psychology is very critical of Sigmund Freud. He just happened to be one of the early people to go, hey, there's stuff here. He just happened to have a lot of goofy perspectives. Okay. So it's like, oh, Freudian and Carl Jung and this and that. No, they were just kind of early people that were dealing with it. And even secular psychology and therapy looks back at a lot of that and very, very problematic in many of their views. So there was just a lot of blanket observations that were used. And I think that triggers a lot of obsessors, perfectionists. People feel like, oh my goodness, am I doing something wrong? It was filled with a lot of emphatic statements. There's a lot of things they said that I agree, like the over-prescribing of things, the over-pathologizing of things, where things need to be worked through relationally. Instead of like, my kid's got ADHD, put him on Ritalin. Yes, it's happening a lot. However, we're not then looking at this thing we're calling ADHD and going, what's happening here? We're just going, they're just overdiagnosing and medicating our kid. Just get your kid to read the Bible. So I struggle with it. I struggle with the condemning kind of approach. Here's all the wrong things you're doing about mental health. Meanwhile, people are suffering. Meanwhile, there's all kinds of battlegrounds. People are in massive anxiety, panic attacks, self-harm and suicidal struggle, all kinds of things going on. I mean, we're barking at them and we're never, and again, it's nothing against the two of them. It's just, we're not getting to the heart. And the heart, people need healing to the broken heart. We're arguing about the mind and the brain and this and that, and we're going in circles. Meanwhile, here's the question I want to ask practitioners. Are you actually helping people? Are you meeting with people one-on-one? Because when you sit down and meet with people one-on-one, it humbles you. Like if you have viewpoints about mental health that are very super intense black and white, go sit down and meet with people and help them. Like, and is there fruit coming out? People's lives really being transformed, where they've worked through depression, they're getting strength in overcoming anxiety. Their symptoms of OCD are lessening because of things that you're feeding them and practicing. Meanwhile, everyone's arguing about what's happening. Meanwhile, like what's going on to actually help people, right? So it's like we're arguing about this methodology, that methodology. Okay, well, what do we need to actually do? I think I want to be more about keep feeding what is good and what is helping people and setting them free and using the word of God. And I don't see it as a compromise if I use the word rumination, or it's just a term, or the term narcissism. It's a term that kind of helps you to explain a bunch of traits. And it can be overused. Where narcissism can be overused, right? Trauma can be overused. Trigger can be overused. Obsessive, overused. OCD, overused. On and on. It can be overused. It doesn't negate, though, the need that we have to deal with these issues. I just struggle personally. I've said this to my wife over and over again. I struggle personally when things and matters of the heart and these very vulnerable areas get put into political wavelength discourse, because it gets very snarky and like, I don't like this, and people saying this, and we're like, just
very elitist. They get very elitist, like, I know the best.
Yes. I'm sorry. It's just not my lane. I'm not in that lane of like I did a video responding to John MacArthur. I did that, and maybe I'll do some more responses to it, but I want to spend my time to continually feeding. I felt like if I responded to that video, I would be pausing it 1,000 times. It's just, and I'm in it, like even the topic of self-love. When you understand what we're saying, it's not the way that they're defining it, right? It's like, oh, Mark, he's that Christian guy. Well, what do you mean by that? What is it to you? What are you saying when you say that, right? So I'm going to define these things and define these areas, because they're like, we're teaching people to exalt themselves apart from God. No, that's not it either. It's not it either. That's not what it should be. And I talk to therapists. I talk to people in the trenches, and I don't see them encouraging people to just exalt themselves. Now, what they're calling out is fringe things that are to use the political like spectrum, there are like some fringe movements, I guess you could call it, in the left that are like twisting things, like especially when it comes to gender, when it comes to feelings, when it comes to my truth and all those kinds of things. It does seems to be in that segment there. And then they're placing that on all of psychology. I am concerned about psychology drifting with that instead of holding the ground to what they know to be true in empirical evidence and science and research. Because even in my schooling, I'm going, hey, you guys need to hold to what's in your textbooks. You know. So anyway, but I feel like meanwhile, kids are suffering, people are suffering, and I want to be a help and in those arenas. So those kind of episodes, in my opinion, cause unnecessary arguments, strife, and people spinning out. Meanwhile, people need help. And there's nuance in this. There's nuance in like what is helpful for people, how to navigate with them. And yes, I stand on the word of God, and I believe very powerfully in it. Anyway, I think I've said enough there. Any other things you've got in your world? Because somebody wants to ask me about keto.
No, go ahead, Boo.
They want to know why I stopped doing keto.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would be curious to hear why you stopped doing. There could be got some interesting questions that are coming up here. I would be curious to hear why you stopped doing the keto diet. I have at one point felt like the keto diet was a magic bullet solving all my OCD struggles. Yeah. Don't look at it like that. Don't look at anything as a magic bullet. Okay, don't look at anything as magic.
That's witchcraft anyway.
And then it wasn't. I have gone back and forth on its effectiveness for OCD, and there is a lot out there now on it helping OCD. I was curious about your change. Okay, so real quick, what I did was keto with also intermittent fasting. So that's important for me to answer your question. Intermittent fasting, like 16 hours, and then you break a fast, maybe around lunchtime, maybe a little bit, usually a little bit later, and then dinner. Okay, that was kind of the framework. I think it's fantastic for obesity. I think it's great, especially for men. For women, it can have a hormonal effect that you have to be aware of. That you may need to do some carb cycling or things like that. Just be aware. But for obesity, or as my Korean doctor would say, you are partially obese. It's a joke. If you didn't hear that episode, you won't get it. Good for like blood sugar, because many of us are like pre-diabetic, hypoglycemic, where you just don't have a good relationship with sugar because we're inundated with it. I think it's also helpful for, I know it's been proven, it's helpful for people feel greater clarity, a little bit more energy, because you shift from sugar to ketones. So what happens is you're basically starving sugar in your body, and your body shifts over to producing ketones that your liver produces. Now you're living off of that, and people feel a lot greater clarity. It was used early on for people who are having seizures, a certain kind of seizure. I forget which kind. And they found that to be effective. Then within the past couple decades, it started being used in more and more areas, people getting more mind clarity, more focus, more energy. It does have some downsides. You got to be very strict with it. So people that have food obsessions, it can be tricky, because it's not like kind of keto. You kind of got to follow. You got to follow it, and you got to get a lot of electrolytes. There's some other things you got to supplement as well too. People who have mood issues like bipolar, or people that have schizophrenia, they have found it to be incredibly helpful. So with that said, I started it because back in 2015, it was 2015 or 2016, I went on I went on a biologic drug for autoimmune. You guys know I had severe psoriasis, which moved into psoriatic arthritis, and I was covered from head to toe with plaques everywhere. It was miserable. And so I tried everything I could. I made diet modifications. So I eventually went on a biologic. It's called Humira, and I noticed I didn't feel normal. Like I just felt off. And it's like that when there's a trade-off. When you take a drug, you're gonna have certain side effects. You may not have all of them, you may not have a bunch, but it's kind of, and that's the decision people have to make but for me, it was like, I'm gonna have to do this because the inflammation just keeps growing and growing and growing. but I felt like I felt two things. I felt bloated, and unusually bloated, and I felt like goofy mood issues, and I felt like even like intrusiveness was a bit louder. I could tell some stories about that, about navigating that. So within that and in my research, I said, all right, let me clamp down. Since I got them take this, let me clamp down on my diet even further to help. And so keto kind of gave me a structure to help me navigate the rough adjustment, because I had a rough adjustment coming on to that biologic and getting used to it, my body getting used to it. So I was almost 10 years ago. I ran into some trouble though. I've had a lot of like sleep issue, and where my sleep hasn't been great. I've for a while, I've had a lack of satiation, meaning just not feeling satisfied, and it would travel into the evening. I also learned in some genetic testing stuff, which is kind of a new thing now that I do. You can take your DNA and get it like looked at as like potential problematic areas. And one of them that I noticed was that I could have the potential my body struggling to process fats effectively, too much fat. So it's like, interesting. Because I would keep adding fats just because keto is a high fat diet, and it just like wasn't helping satiation. And then some of my struggles I've told you guys about this years ago, going way back. I've had night eating struggles of just all of a sudden a spike in hunger, late at night. And there's more I could share and talk about that. But I saw that starting to rise up again and happen again. And so a couple things I realized, okay, I need to probably shift the game plan. I need to go back to having breakfast. Let me go back to having 3 meals to kind of get my body, because something's happening at the end of the day where my body's still in like, no, you need more food. You need more food. So the fasting part for me in that regard wasn't helping. It's like it would kind of create like a restriction, and then the body was like, I need food. So I'd have a hard time going to sleep unless I'd have something to eat before I went to sleep. So a whole thing in that. And so I found myself just bringing in now some fruits. I'm not going back to like pure sugar. In fact, most sugary things are not tasteful to me because I've just been away from it so much more. It just like most stuff that people would enjoy, I go, this is like syrupy. It's like, oh my goodness. So, but I started incorporating fruits and some carbs, like simple ones. Like I'm not a big fan of bread. I don't like how bread makes me feel. So I don't do too much of that, but some rice and some things like I'm open to like quinoa or things like that I bring in, but I still do big salads. And I feel like it's helping a bit. We'll see. Because I'm just trying to regulate and kind of help my sleep patterns. And the night thing is a thing for me. I'm still working out. And a lot of people have that. Sometimes they call it even to like night eating, some people. And I've had this in the past too, where like get up in my sleep and like I'm awake, but yet not really like, and I remember it the next morning, but it's weird. I'll go and like snack on some stuff. So I saw myself at night, like, kind of having this restlessness where I couldn't fall asleep and then a hunger would spike up. So I said, let me just restructure and kind of push my meal eating now back to the early part to see. And I've been doing that for a couple of weeks. I'm seeing some improvements. So anyways, that's the honest answer to that. But I'm learning because I used food for comfort a lot. And there are times where I've been obsessive about, like, I make sure I follow the rules, make sure I do that. So there's a learning of grace within it too. But in my younger years, when I say my younger years, starting at like 12, 13, and then even the transition years, puberty, those years, going into adulthood, working at the church, 18 to 22, and 12, 13. Those were like times where I looked to food for comfort. And it became, something that I had to work on healing through. So many of us have that. Many of you have that, where your relationship with food in a variety of ways, whether it's a full-on eating disorder or you're just addicted to sugar, or you have something, you just have patterns in how you receive comfort. So for me, that's I'm open to just like making shifts and adjustments along the way. And I pray that, that'll encourage you too, for those of you that are struggling and have battles in that you can find help in that. All right. Hope that helps. Okay, so this lady she's talking about her wine drinking, and I have an OCD rumination cycle where I'm fearful of becoming an alcoholic. I have periods of my life with heavier drinking, but also periods where I've cut back and not drank at all. Now it feels like even if I think about wanting a glass of wine at the end of the week, that perpetuates the idea to myself that I am an alcoholic. It's starting to also morph into, okay, maybe I'm not an alcoholic, but did God tell me in my spirit to stop drinking? And by enjoying an alcoholic beverage within reason, am I disobeying what he has called me to do? Yeah, I see the OCD taking over real quick here. Yeah. Which is what it does. It takes an area, hijacks it, and pulls you on a journey. Am I blocking a blessing? Have I made it an idol? Here comes the idol thing. The more I think about it and ruminate on it, the more it feels and confirms that. The more I think about it and ruminate on it, the more it feels like it confirms that. I want to be able to have a drink with friends at celebrations or in moderation, not feel guilty like I have a problem. Okay, yeah, you want to do that, but you also have OCD. So you have to recognize that. I know an easy answer is just don't drink anymore. And I could do that, but is that really the answer?
Although I do catch myself every now and then having a little bit of the extra spirits, if you know what I mean. I shouldn't, and I ask God for forgiveness, but sometimes a glass of Courvoisier or something like that is just...
Courvoisier!
It's just very tasty. A little bit of Merlot, help the heart.
In moderation, if I feel guilty, like I have a problem, I know these. Yeah, okay. And I could do that. Is it really the answer that God is calling me to do or trying to fix an OCD obsession? How do I determine what to do? There's a number of people I've had conversations with this on. And those of you who heard me talk about wine, you understand that I do take a very cautious approach when talking about this because so many people have battles and struggles with alcoholism. Many people, I feel like it's like every other person grew up with an alcoholic parent. And that's just my anecdotal kind of evidence. So I'm very cautious when I even share what I'm going to share right now. So just understand that. But I had a little bit of this kind of even spin in my journey too, because I do like a glass of wine. I do like wine, and I'm fascinated with the study and understanding of it and the history of it. It goes back to antiquity, even the days of the Bible. And I had a lot of renewal to do in it too, because I grew up with a very strict legalistic sense. Like, if you have a drink, you're going to go die. Like a hole is going to open out underneath you and you're going to go on a slip and slide down to hell. I'm serious.
I know you're serious. I've heard it and seen it in full effect.
Yes. Yeah. But it's not a black and white. Okay, now just go to the other side. So I'm very cautious in talking about this for a number of reasons. But I did have a sense of fear, because I have addictions in my history, in my family.
Not you, but in your family.
Yeah, that's what I said. What did you think I said?
No, sorry.
Yeah, I have a history of addictions in my family. So, I get what you're saying. That you're like clarifying what me. So within that, I think it's important to understand you have freedom. Now, just me saying I like to have a glass of wine, I just lost the Baptists and a bunch of Pentecostals, but the Presbyterians.
The church lady, I don't know, but she's drinking Courvoisier then.
Well, it depends the mood that I'm in, Brother Mark. It really does. It really does. But I got to be honest. Sometimes I become a sipping saint. I do need to confess that.
Well, the church gentleman has a hidden cabinet, so you know that.
Well, I will tell you what. I do have some fellowship with my Presbyterian brothers, and it's quite delightful.
So anyways, like I said, I lose some of my Baptists, some of my Pentecostal friends, but then the Presbyterians and the Catholics are like, hey, let's hang out. So within that, the biblical context is don't get drunk. Now, but if people have conviction about it, and some people, they realize it's problematic. And I believe too in read the room as a Christian. You have freedom in it. But Paul said this, you have freedom. Don't use it as a license to self-indulge, right? But use your freedom to serve and love others, right? But we do have freedom and we do have liberty. So So within that context, I mean, there is a sense of like where intrusive, am I an alcoholic? Is this because I like studying this or reading about it or having a glass. And here, to get back to your question, because you have an OCD issue, to address what you're struggling with, beyond just all the talk and conversation about it, right? The way you answer this question, am I an alcoholic? Maybe, maybe not. That's not going to help you right now because it's going to spike you. It's going to spike the anxiety at first. But this is the best feedback I can give you to these. This is a really good response to intrusive thoughts in general. Now it makes people go, oh, maybe it means yes. No, what it does is it leaves it where it needs to be. Now, I would encourage you have good people in your life that can give you feedback. You know, in my home, if there was ever a hint of any kind, not just a glass of wine, any kind, even overworking, you know, if there's any kind of behavior in my life that negatively affects my wife and my children, they all three have permission to speak out to me. I'm going to be alert to that. That I believe is sober living.
Right.
But there's many obsessors that spin about this issue. Because when I look at addictions and look at alcoholism, the thing that I really want to look at is how it takes over life and how it hinders health and family, because it can destroy marriages, destroy families, right? And the big concern I have for people who like to have a glass of wine or you have a beer or whatever is, do you deal with your emotions? Because many are using it to just mask what they're feeling. And so like I've had people, they'll be in a call and they're like spinning about, oh, am I an alcoholic? Meanwhile, they have like all these other areas that are like heartbreaking, but they're spinning about the alcohol. And I'm like, we got to bring you to dealing with your emotions. So my counsel to people, I know it's a tricky area. Even as a pastor, I navigated this where, you know, I told people that they were free, and then we would have church events and people are bringing wine coolers, and I'm like, you're not reading right. The room here.
I don't mean to laugh, but that did right.
No, you can laugh. You can laugh because we're like, oh, you know, because with the freedom, not to quote Spider-Man, but with freedom comes responsibility. No, with great power comes that Spider-Man. Power, Sorry. You're getting your comic books wrong. With freedom comes a sense of responsibility, stewardship. So I think that's important as Christians. If you're Presbyterian, you got freedom to drink. You kind of get a sense of your brother you're meeting with, and if they're against it, it's like, I'm going to respect that. And I think that's healthy living, right? You don't let your freedom become an unnecessary stumbling block, right? Now, if you're alone somewhere, you're out at something, and somebody happens to pass by and you couldn't do anything about it, it's like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? That's not what, you know. But anyway, I think obsessive compulsiveness gets into the subject a lot because it kind of creates the all or nothing kind of thing, creates spinning out. Obsessors do have addictive tendencies. So we have to be aware of that, right? We have to be aware of like the tendency. There are some crossovers of addictions and obsession. I wrote about that in my book. And I think that there are many people like spinning out about alcoholism in an unnecessary way. That's just my opinion. For example, there's a comedian, his name is John Chris. I love John. I love his comedy, love everything. But in watching he had this kind of fallout happen. He had some inappropriate interactions with some ladies, things like that. Put that aside for a second. That's not what I'm focusing on. And he would talk about like his drinking pattern and where he's like, where it got bad. But when he would explain where it got bad, like even some of his friends were making fun of him because they're like, that's what you shared is like, that's a Tuesday for us, you know? And even when he went into rehab, people there were like, what are you doing here? You know, now, workaholic tendencies, all that kind of stuff. I think rehab would be good for anybody in what they talk about, because dealing with your emotions, dealing with your issues. I think John has a bit of OCD. That's just my opinion. I've never met him. Oh, I'm sorry, I did meet him.
We did meet him, but I mean, we don't know him. No.
Yeah, but know him. I did shake his hand and say a couple words and took a picture with him. That's it. Maybe I'll interview him someday. But that's it. That's just my perspective. Is I see obsessive compulsive tendencies, and I think that makes some of his comedy funny because he talks about intrusive thoughts. You know, the classic joke of like driving down the road. Do you ever have that thought of you see people on the road? Do you ever have that thought that goes, that thing that he does? That's an intrusive thought.
No, that's a demon, brother. You got to cast that out. That's a demon of, I got to knock that person off the side of the road spirit needs to be delivered from you. Although, sometimes people, the way they act makes me, well, that's a whole nother subject.
So anyway, I think that I've had a number of people talk to you about this issue. You kind of have to respond to it to a maybe, maybe not. And I don't think we should, hear me out. I don't think we should just like resolve that question. I think that tension, leaving that where I'm not like answering it yes or no, it kind of can help you just remain sober. Because we want just comfort. I just want to know I'm okay, right? We kind of want to go from one ditch to another and just feel okay. I think the call is sobriety. So I like it's like the love of God and also the respect and honor, what the Bible calls the fear of the Lord, right? It's like that's who he is. They're both there, right? So I feel his love, but there's a respect and awe that's there. And it helps ground me in that. So anyway, I do get this question and wanted to share a little bit of that in my own journey. You're free. And unless you're Baptist and unless you're where I come from, I'll just say that where I come from. I found it interesting, though. I had some friends who they were from Europe and they had pastored there and they'd also pastored in Canada. And it was interesting. They'd talk about how after church, this was in Canada, after church, everyone would go out for beers. And I was like, oh, that's very strange to American church culture. And they're like, oh yeah, even in Europe, we would, wouldn't be uncommon for after church to go out and, So, and many of the people who have alcoholism in their family, would go, yeah, well, gosh, I understand. I hear you. I'm just trying to give you a grounded biblical context. I found that people who grew up with alcoholics, this is another thing, people who grew up with true alcoholics often can develop obsessive compulsive traits. I'm not saying if you're OCD, that means your parent was an alcoholic. I'm saying if your parent was an alcoholic, that means you're going to be OCD. I'm just saying I noticed that can be a coping mechanism that's developed because when you're raised with an alcoholic parent, you need control issues that come in to survive. You need perfectionism comes in, just rightness, all that comes in. So it makes you more vulnerable to the intrusive thoughts that come out about that. So anyways, those are my thoughts on that. I hope that helps and hope that I'm going to take a dance break, come back, and I'll see. I think we're going to wind this thing down, but I hope this was a help today. I just like that 80s kind of groove.
Me too.
I dig that. It's the 80s in us, my love. So as we're winding things down, I had a few more questions, but I'm like, I'll save that for Sunday. Let's come back Sunday.
Okay.
We'll do Sunday live. And
I'm just getting excited because Christmas is coming. I love it.
Can you move your chair just a little bit to show there is some Christmassy kind of stuff behind
Oh,
you?
a little bit. Wait, this way.
Yeah. Oh, there's some, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because the tree is actually there. Maybe we'll move it over.
Mhm.
The tree looks cute. Abby decorated it.
Yeah,
It's really cute.
I could turn the camera, but that light's in the
No,
way.
that's all right. Actually, this year we got a new tree, and I got one of those twinkling ones. You know, all the Instagram influencers said to get. Oh, I have a blanket on, and it's just stuck under my chair. Hold on. How much do you love the twinkling tree, Bert?
I do love it.
Isn't it so great?
I love the way you decorate the house. It's very nice. Yeah. Cozy is the word that you use.
I love a cozy.
You're very big on the word cozy and making things feel cozy.
I like dim lighting.
Yep.
Nice warm yellow.
Yep.
Cozy business. I love red bows. We have one of those like farmhouse chandeliers in our living room, and I have red bows hanging from them.
Yes.
I just love it.
I love it. It's my favorite.
Thanks, Boo.
We're going to come back for Sunday Live on the 7th, your birthday.
It's my birthday. Yes.
Yep. You're turning 42.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
And then the 14th, that's going to be our De Jesus Christmas celebration.
Extravaganza.
Yes.
The kids will be here.
Yes. Abbondanza.
We'll see if we
Andiamo.
can fit Max because he's gotten quite tall.
Yeah, we'll make some,
So we'll
room
have
over
to
there.
make some room for
We'll
him.
get the camera set up. You're gonna have the. it's probably the most stressful Sunday Live I put together is getting all that ready. And
Seth said maybe I'll have a little shot of Chardonnay tonight.
Chardonnay.
Chardonnay. That's an inside joke. Anyway.
See, you know, and it's like I'll be honest. I do worry like where people take that.
You know what though?
So I just
we are not alcohol abusers.
Yeah.
And
not at all. We're very big on sobriety.
we are
Always
we're
always remaining sober in all things.
But we have come to appreciate a nice red glass of wine or
Yes.
something that goes like
with a meal.
Craig said with a steak.
Yeah.
We have become those people.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh, I wanted to mention this. Yesterday, please be sure to check out the video I did on somatic understanding. I put a lot of thought into it. I really enjoyed doing that one. So check that out. I may come out with another video tomorrow. I'm going to try to like put a bunch of stuff in before we go on break because after the 14th, that's when we're going to take a break for the rest of the month
down.
and then come back in the new year. That's our time to take a break. We get away. I also take a bunch of time to rethink about 2026, where I want to go with teachings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to wrap up my manuscript on my perfectionism book. I'm getting close.
You are, and it's
Getting
really
close.
good. And I need you to finish the family video. So I need you to chop.
Yes. And for anyone who's curious, that's not something we post
No,
in public.
it's not. I'm sorry.
It's just something for our
I
family.
wish I could. I have to be honest because Mark does
Oh, thanks.
an amazing job. But no, that's for our family.
Well, for two reasons. One, it's it's I like to just there's a lot. I just like to keep it amongst our family, just
Yeah.
us. And two, it's all copyrighted music, so it would,
Oh, that's right. We couldn't play it anyway.
it'd be flagged.
True.
It'd be flagged.
Yeah.
So YouTube would be like.
That ain't happening.
So anyway, I'm gonna finish up the trauma series, and then kind of look at where am I going to go next in teaching series. I will do some more OCD related stuff coming up, and some things about stress and well, anyways, I'm working on what my next Bible study will be. I got a bunch of books I've been thinking about. I'm actually kind of indecisive right now. I got to make a decision.
I know, right?
I got to follow my own advice. Just make a decision. And I'm like, yeah, but that would be so fun. What about that area?
I know. It'd be so good. Someone asked if we've ever tried Wim Hof breathing. Oh, we have.
No, not technically not.
Now, you do his impersonation.
Breathing and let it go. It's kind of a little Scarface in the way it did it. Breathing
I thought we did.
and let it go.
I thought,
No.
You sent me a mini clip. You sent me a mini clip of him that I was.
Some people is like it's very extensive, but yes. We were aware of the mini version of it.
The mini version.
But then
yes.
there's I'm sorry, but he
got into-
he pushes it too much where it's like a solve all for everything. But it's partially breathing, but it's also sitting in ice, sitting in like
I'm not into
the
that.
cold plunge. So it did launch like a whole revolution of people doing cold plunges.
It did.
So
Which I guess it's great.
yeah, it is.
Seth also said that his grandpa sold wine and made jelly.
He's-
That's an amazing grandpa.
I'm wondering if he was a monk because the monks were
No, monks don't get married and have kids, right? Or do they?
well, I'm saying the history of it going back to the monks.
Wine and jelly?
Because the monks were they preserved because working with vines is a very precise, patient process, and they would
is.
guard over that, and they would also make jams as well too.
Sir, are you continuing this tradition? Because please pass some along to us.
Yeah.
The jelly? What kind of jelly?
Yeah,
He knew the Amish in Pennsylvania, so he got good recipes.
yeah. There you go.
Why couldn't my grandpa do that?
Yeah. Like
I got gypped on both sides, quite frankly. But
from what I understand, like like during wars, like the monks would kind of like preserve some of the like crops and things like that.
didn't a monk, give you jelly in New York on the subway?
It was this stranger sitting next to me on the subway. Yes. And he told me, he sat there and just talked to me and my friend. We were going to Grand Central from Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just one of those chatty guys, tells us his whole story. And I'm like, hey, this is really cool. By the end of the story, he goes, yes. And what they came up with, and he whips out of his coat a jar of the jam. And I'm like, bro, thanks.
You were like, this is the weirdest thing, but it was the best thing.
Yeah. And I was like, I brought it home and I'm like, is this going to kill me?
We love jelly.
Is there
Who
something?
doesn't love homemade jelly?
Yeah.
Listen, everybody, I know I'm going off on tangents here, but we started making homemade yogurt.
Oh, yeah. Talk about this.
Okay. I'm obsessed.
Mm-hmm.
It is so good. First of all, Mark was telling me all the stuff he read about it and how good it is for you. And I was reading some of the little blurbs. I'm in love with it.
Let me explain it.
Please explain.
It's spelled, it's L Returi. Hold on. Sorry.
No.
L and then space Reuteri.
Yes.
It's and we got a little thing, you make it yourself. And I did a lot of reading on gut bacteria, helping me, helping you, helping the kids, a bunch of different things that we're all working through. And it's great. You feel great after having it. Yeah.
First of all, it's so creamy, it's so good. But then the second time. Right? Was it the second time I made it? Because it has to ferment for 36 hours, and I didn't do it at the same time.
Right.
At the timing I was supposed to, so I had to get up at midnight to take the jars out and put them in the fridge.
Yes.
However, I got stressed out about the whole sterilization thing, and now I'm kind of doing okay with it. But you guys, you need to do this.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
The initial ingredients you have to get, you got to kind of get some specific things.
But it's just too
So it's they're not cheap, but once you get them, then you can make tons of batches of it. You can just keep going.
I just ordered more little jars.
Yeah.
The jars are cute, so it's like a whole sensory thing with the little jars and the yogurt.
Yeah.
So yummy.
El Rituri. I think I'm saying it right. Yeah. Anyways, I found a recipe. You can find recipes, a bunch of different ones.
It's amazing.
Online. Limisolactobacillus
Now I just gotta
Rituri.
Now I just got to get back into the sourdough.
That's a long name for a bacteria.
It is.
Healthy gut. We're about trying to get our gut healthy as best we can.
Yeah, with my dad in the hospital last week, they're shoving him full of antibiotics and all kinds of things. So I brought my little jar in there.
Right.
Like, here, eat this. This is going to be good for you.
Right. Meanwhile, they're just giving him like sugary jello.
Yeah, the stuff that they give in the hospital. Don't even get me started on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Right on.
Anyway.
This was great, love.
Seth, I'm jealous of your grandpa doing that, by the way. But anyway.
Yeah. Any kind of grandpa that does, yeah.
That's my imaginary grandpa in my mind.
Yeah. We've been walking around trying to adopt grandparents left and right.
Trust, we do. I'm like scoping out. Do you think we can ask him? Do you think we can ask him?
Yeah. It's funny because people call me, they're like either their uncle.
Yes.
They call me Uncle Mark. or the, brother,
Yes.
just, that's the typical one. Or like YouTube dad.
Yeah.
And but it's funny. I've done the same thing in my own life where I'm like, can you be my grandpa?
I know.
Can you be my uncle? Can you be my dad? Can you be?
Do you have somebody online that you look at that you go, I want him to be my dad? Or like a grandpa?
Yeah,
like
but
I coined the term like moofy. There's like, you're very moofy.
yeah, but I can't think of it right now.
Oh, okay. Because I thought there was somebody that you and I like that's online that we're like, oh my gosh, they seem so nice.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'll probably remember it after we get off.
I know.
Yeah.
You have menopause. I have menopause. Unfortunately, my menopause is rubbing off on your brain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. People said you are our cool uncle.
Oh, all right.
That's so nice.
All right. I'll take that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take that. Be the cool uncle. All right, love.
Okay.
I'm ready to go.
Me too.
All right.
This was great, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, it was great having you. And those of you listening to this, check it out. We'll be back Sunday. So stay tuned for that. And I may come out with a video tomorrow too. But this is your brother from another mother
And your sister from another mister.
saying we'll be back with more insights for your healing and freedom journey. But in the meantime,
A we out.
I love you, Daddy.